capes and conundrums. "White, can we talk?" Dr. Malaise asks, and Robin nods. The Tret psychologist with the name that translates very poorly into English bids him to follow some way away from Albin and the rest of the group. Then, in a movement that's fast for her and slow for him, forces him into a headlock and pulls him down with a furious scowl on her face. Not that Robin can see it, as the movement to try and assert some kind of dominance has the side effect of mashing his face into the side of her breast. "What makes you think that—" Dr. Malaise begins before Robin just starts blowing into the breast as much as he can, and she shoves him away. Or rather, accidentally shoves herself away from him, as he's very, very much far too dense and stable to actually be shoved her. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Coming from the woman who tried to have a serious conversation by mashing my face into her breasts. "Damn it, human, I need you to listen to me," she states, and he nods while putting his hands in his pockets. "I am listening. You don't need to put me in a headlock for that. Considering how stupid your advice to this child has been, I needed to make sure your skull hadn't been hollowed out. You do not bring in the lawyers over a family squabble. What is wrong with you?" I'm still talking. "Do you have any idea how much damage bringing litigation into this will be? There is a time and a place for such things, and the death of a pet, while tragic, is not that." Malaise scolds him while effectively dancing on several old wounds of Robin that he really doesn't like having brought up. "And now your left eye is twitching. Why is your eye twitching?" "You don't get to—" Dr. Malaise begins, and his hand clamps around her mouth and stifles whatever she was about to say, as Robin glares balefully down at her. The eye twitch was suddenly a lot less annoying and a lot more frightening. "Manners, please," Robin says, but does not let her go. He takes a few deep, calming breaths, and only then lets her go. Regardless, a lawyer at this point is massively disproportionate, Malaise states. "Personal experience tells me that if you're at the place where your pets aren't safe, then it's not going to get better and it's well past time to leave," Robin states, and she stares at him. "Oh, sweet goddess. I'm here to do the equivalent of applying medical tape to a gushing wound, not amputating a dead and rotting limb. Relax. I understand that this isn't the same situation I was in, but the warning signs are there, and—" Robin's explanation is cut off when she grabs him around the mouth, and he resists his first impulse to bite or lick her hand and get her to pull it away. No. This is not the same situation. For starters, you only have the word of one party and not the others. You're projecting your own issues onto him, but this is not some crude barbarian city where the men are drunken abusers and the women spiteful enablers. "I really shouldn't have drunk that much last break," Robin notes. "You weren't too bad, but you're a chatty drunk and all too willing to show off the scar," she says, and Robin doesn't outwardly respond. "I'm sorry," he says and looks away. "There's a reason I went into contract law rather than family law as I originally intended. I couldn't stay impartial." "You're undaunted, don't be sorry. Be better," Malaise states before softening a bit. "Look, I get it. You're trying to protect someone, but your skill set isn't what's needed in this situation. I've got the training in both personal and family counseling. This is my field of battle." "Then by all means, soldier, march," Robin says, and Malaise nods to him. "Have I really been projecting?" Robin asks himself as he rubs the top of his head. It's almost invisible between the strands of hair, and that he brushes his hair back just makes it vanish entirely. But the ridge of a scar on the top of his scalp reminds him so much of that day. The bottle, the blood, the screaming, running. He stops rubbing and gets control of himself again. He hasn't been helpless in a very long time. He could kill and destroy lives both lethally and legally. He was not weak. He was in control. He was still alive. It had been years since he thought that. Damn, he really was projecting. Alban gives the Tret woman a sideways look as she approaches again. She offers him a smile that seems fake. "What a mess," she says, leaning up against the truck. "You all right, child?" "I want a lawyer," he says in a tone halfway between deadened and angry. "You don't want that one. He's letting his own personal hang-ups color things. He'd have to recuse himself from the case." Malaise explains, pointing towards Robin. "He's a little too sympathetic and isn't looking at this impartially." "Impartially? They killed Beaky," Alban snaps out. "Deliberately?" she asks, and he just glares at her. "Look, what's happened to you is horrible, but right now acting rash will only make it worse." "Acting rash? Acting rash?" Alban demands, and she holds up a hand, but it does nothing to stem the flow. "I recovered Beaky's egg from a nest, and hand-reared him from hatching. I loved that beast. No one else has tamed a Tharasso wing without cybernetically modifying one to be obedient, or using a Kutha totem to make it obey. Beaky was the first. Beaky was amazing. Oh, Beaky." The boy buries his face in his hands with the side claws on his face, twitching in distress. "All right, but just lashing out will only make this worse. Now, my name is Dr. Alviara Malaise. I'm going to help you with this, if you're willing." "And what's this going to cost me?" he asks in a bitter tone. "We can work something out, don't—" "What is it going to cost me?" Alban demands. You're waffling and backing out now because you don't want to be seen as the jerks for taking advantage of some poor helpless little boy. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. "Run the tests," Robin offers, and Alban pauses. "What?" "We need to test a series of tests. What do you know about the events happening in the city?" "Nothing." "Perfect. You're young, untrained, uninformed. A perfect low-end test taker. We've only run our own soldiers and people who've already done very well through the tests. You don't even know what I'm talking about. So you're a perfect control for the tests. And you want me to run these tests in exchange for helping me? Well, we can draw up a contract that if you run the tests, we have to help you. Pass or fail, you can lock us into it," Robin says. "I'll have to clear it with the higher-ups, but we can make this happen. There are ways to pay for services without having so much as a single tri-tight change hands." "And what do the tests test?" Alban asks. "Basic physical competence, puzzles, and navigation in the first 3. It's only in the 4th where things get really exciting." Robin answers before sighing. "Look, I think I may have overreacted a bit." "What?" "I'm not saying that losing Beaky isn't horrible, but you're not in a situation where you need protective custody, are you? You're not in danger. You're not under threat. Things can still be salvaged. And what would you know about that?" Alban asks, and Robin leans down and parts his hair. There is a jagged scar on the top of his head, mostly hidden by the hair. "Courtesy of my father and my mother blamed me instead," Robin says before brushing back his hair with his fingers and hiding the marking flawlessly. "It's not that bad with you, is it?" "No, they don't. I mean, they have weapons, but they're for hunting, and haven't ever been pointed at me," Alban says. "Then it's not as bad as what was going through my head at the time, or what was happening when I was your age. You need to do something, but not what I did," Robin says, and Alban looks at him oddly. "You're weird," Alban says, and Robin shrugs. "Yes, and? So I shouldn't go to the police?" "You should go to the police only if all other options fail. How do I put this? Bringing in someone else to win a fight is the option for after a fight has been lost, not for when it's just getting started." "Getting started? Do you know what they're like? All my sisters always laughing about how I don't want to just slaughter things for fun, or how I'd rather spend time with animals. Mom doesn't help. She wants me to go hunting. Dad doesn't help. He tries to stay out of it. And when he does, do something things like this happen." Alban protests, and Malaise sighs before putting a finger to Robin's lips to stop him from talking, and giving him a push away so she can talk with Albin. She then slinks down to sit and gestures for him to sit beside her. Albin sighs, but sits down in the ash next to her. "This all seems unfair, I know," Malaise says. But when Robin said that using a lawyer or the police was burning bridges, he really wasn't kidding. But he comes from a place where his family was more of an enemy to him than a family, and he really was better off without them. You have to think about things such as this, and it's hard to do that when you're fresh out of pain and sorrow. Anyone who's lost a pet will sympathize with you, but you have to understand that not everyone knows everything that's going on. Not even you. You can't read minds, can you? No. So you have no idea what's going on in your father's head, or in your sister's or mother's. You don't know. So there may be something terrible happening. What if owning Beaky was running up against some kind of law? What if there was some kind of push for strength that you didn't know about? Or maybe your sisters are terrified that you might end up pushed around by your future wives and they want you to push back. You don't know. They might have good intentions. They might also just be idiots. It's sometimes very hard to tell the differences between actual malice, good intentions gone wrong, or just plain stupidity. So you're saying, if it's malice, you should get out of there. If they just want to hurt you, then it's time for the police and the lawyers. If it's good intentions gone wrong, then you need to talk to them and sort it out as a family. That's what I hope this is, by the way. But more often, terrible things like this happening isn't due to malice or good intentions gone wrong. It's due to stupidity. If they're just stupid, then you need to understand that and learn to deal with it. Because the problem with stupid people is that they're everywhere, and there's no getting away from that. Oh, wait, so, I mean, they're probably just idiots? Albin asks. It's very rare to find a person who's just evil. Very, very rare. But someone causing harm due to being an idiot? Very common. So make sure that you're not just beating up idiots for being idiots, because that's something an idiot does. Malaise explains. Now, do you really think that your family has been trying to hurt you? Or do you think they've just made a really stupid choice, and that choice just keeps making things worse for you? Albin thinks. He remembers how often the most frequent thing he hears from any of his sisters is, "Wanna come hunting," how his father and mothers are always trying to get him out with them. He remembers the last time he did was when he found Beaky's nest after his sisters shot the nesting parents, and only one egg survived. He remembered his father and mother helping him fill out the forms to keep a wild animal as a pet. The shots and specialists that came in to examine Beaky and oh, Beaky. He nearly sobs as he remembers just how much the Thoroso had loved to cuddle up to him, how he had been teaching the little flyer everything, and how much it hurt that the sweet little bird was just gone now. There are arms around him, and he sobs into malaise as he continues to mourn the best friend he ever had.